Look, everybody's talking about betting this. What are the lines? And I found my favorite line for this weekend's game. Over under 8.5 times, Matt Campbell makes that face.
Happy Wednesday! And welcome into the PHNX Sun Devils show. Of course, presented by Branded Bills. Make sure you head to brandedbills.com and use that code BBPHNX for 15% off your first order. By my passenger princess, of course, Erik, Ruby. We've got the deli man behind the Mac making all of the magic happen. The green M&M is here. Sharon, Deborah, Parker, Rob, Lee Corso. We got the deli cam up and running. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and drop a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. A lot to get into today. We're going to hear from Iowa State head coach Matt Campbell, what he has to say about the Arizona State Sun Devils, and, of course, Jeff Sims getting the nod to start for ASU this week. We're going to be talking about how you beat Iowa State on the offensive and defensive side of the football. But, Rubus, I want to just, before we get too deep into any of that, how you feeling, man?
Dude, I'm feeling great. You know the saying, look good, feel good? You ever heard that before?
I have.
First of all, I coined that just like I coined iron sharpens iron.
Wow.
But there's some shout outs in the chat for the stuff that we're wearing. Of course, courtesy of our friends over at Rally House. You got yourself a nice little hoodie on, and I got this beauty on my head right here. So yeah, big shout out to the friends over at Rally House, the best Arizona State merch selection ever.
I mean, best Valley Sports merch selection, to be honest with you. Like, it's incredible all the way around. And I got one other shirt. I think you got one other. You got a Suns shirt too.
Yeah, I got a Suns and a couple of ASU shirts. Yeah.
We got some fire stuff. Some fire stuff that we'll be sporting here over the course of the next couple of days. So excited for you guys to see that. Definitely go check out Rally House. Like Ruby said, definitely that Tempe Marketplace location. If you're somebody that is specifically looking for Arizona State merch, literally half the store is Arizona State jerseys, overalls, shorts, pants, hoodies, hats, everything that you could possibly imagine when it comes to Arizona State merch. We will get the player availability report, the first one of the week, later on this evening. We should have a good idea as to the status of Jordan Tyson, the status of a couple other injured Arizona State Sun Devils that have been dealing with injuries pretty much the entire season. Dilly put it in a funny way today, saying, they had 6 guys at media day and 4 of them aren't playing. It's just
Is that
it's
funny?
been that type of year. It's been that type of year with injuries, man.
Or does that make me want to throw my head into a wall? Tell me what's funny, man. That's not funny.
I mean, look, 4 to the 6 not playing, and there's still a 5-3 football team. I think you'll take that. Again, I don't want to get too deep into that conversation. Feels like we ripped that at least for 5 minutes once a day of just like, hey, 5-3, not so bad. And the other side of it's like 5-3, I want to cry and go to sleep. Like
we are literally the two sides of that. Yeah.
But yeah, we'll get more clarity on that situation today, regardless of who is able to play and who isn't. I would expect to see, a good chunk of younger players and transfer players that maybe you haven't seen just needing to step up. If Arizona State is going to beat this Iowa State team, who in their own right is pretty banged up and injured, you are still going to need players to come out of their shell and perform in ways that you haven't necessarily seen them perform if you're going to win. We talked over the weekend, right, about how Malik McClain had the best game of his career, stepped up, going over 150 receiving yards, 6 catches. Your guy, right? Your guy, Malik McClain. And it still wasn't enough to get the job done. Your guy. Wasn't enough to get the job done against Houston. We both felt like that final score didn't necessarily reflect the game. Felt like Houston pretty much dominated in all 3 phases. And that's with Malik going over, his career bests in a lot of categories. So, Erik, you are going to need players to step up in even bigger ways, not just if Jordan Tyson doesn't play, not just with Sam Levitt not out there. You're going to need multiple players that maybe you haven't seen this season have some career days.
Well, even before we got to the point where it was not just like necessary for them to do it for Arizona State to win, we've been talking about, hey, there needs to be more for ASU. Even when you had Sam Levitt, when you had Jordan Tyson, it was, where is everybody else, right? Where is the depth? Where is that new person that comes on the scene and tears it up like a lot of teams have and like Arizona State had last year? So that's still the same. You've always needed that all season, and it has been something that you've kind of desperately been looking for. Now, you've gotten it. You've gotten it on defense from Boogie. Like, Boogie has just been an incredible addition to this team overall, has been one of the best players on this team, right? On offense, you're still looking for that consistent factor, right? You've had some deep bombs to Jaron Hamilton. You had a great game from Malik McClain, but when you look at some of the other names that we were talking about all offseason, whether it's a Kamari Anderson and an AJ Ia in the tight end room, or whether it's a Jalen Moss, who we're still confirming if that was actually him on the field or AI last weekend, right? Whether you're talking about Kanye Udo, and obviously we've seen Raleek really take storm this year, but we expected to have more from the other running backs. This team not only needs it to hit their ceiling, as in the conversations we were having weeks ago, but now they need it to not hit their floor. Now it's actually needed that much more. And hopefully what Malik did this past weekend can, obviously you're not going to copy and paste it, but can happen with a couple of other guys and maybe some other key positions this weekend, because, I mean, there's a good chance that Iowa State's just a better team than Houston. I know records aside, like, that's not the case right now, but if Iowa State and Houston played, I honestly don't know who I would pick.
Really?
I think I'd pick Houston, but I don't think it would be a blowout.
What
makes
look, you like?
Iowa State was one bad bounce away from, in my mind, like legitimately beating BYU, right? Yeah. And I do think that with how they were able to operate, I know Rocco hasn't been at his best, but I think that they against Houston would be able to put up a better performance than what ASU did this past week. I think ASU could put up a better performance than what they did last week, right? So it's not necessarily in a fact of saying that Houston's bad. I don't think Houston's bad. I just think that despite the injuries, Iowa State is still a well-coached team and still a good team. And honestly, a team that was, again, in my mind, and maybe some people disagree because the score tells differently, but one bad bounce on a punt return away from beating a team that's now a near top 10 team in the country.
Yeah. And Ben Sheasy in chat says Iowa State's a very good team. They're just beat up. I feel like that's the same thing with Arizona State. Is it not? Like, I get it. Like, there's a little bit of the conversation of like, okay, yes, ASU is hurt, but still when they've been healthy offensively, it doesn't really look like they have much of a rhythm. Defensively, sometimes they give up chunk plays, or at least that was kind of the narrative at the start of the year. And then special teams, has been pretty atrocious from the jump. But still, like, we could sit here and acknowledge they're both very good teams if they're both 100% healthy. Neither one of them are 100% healthy going into this matchup. We'll get into the injury side of things here in just a little bit, but this is how the two teams stack up against one another, specifically starting on the defensive side of the ball. In terms of total yards allowed, ASU sitting at 7th, Iowa State at 8th. So these two teams pretty comparable all the way across when it comes to defense in terms of what they allow opposing quarterbacks to do through the air. ASU sits at 10th, Iowa State sits at 11th, so a slightly better secondary pass defense. Edge goes to the Sun Devils. On the ground, we know what the Sun Devils do against the run. They sit at 2nd right now in the Big 12. Iowa State sits at 7th. Then in terms of points allowed, ASU sitting at 9, Iowa State at 8. So these two teams very, very similar on the defensive side of the ball in terms of what they've been able to accomplish and allow here in 2025. Arizona State, of course, does have the edge when it comes to that run defense. On the offensive side of the ball, kind of the same, Rubis. You're seeing a lot of similarities between these two teams in terms of total yards gained all year long. ASU at 10th in the conference, Iowa State at 8th. In terms of passing yards, ASU at 9th, Iowa State slightly better there, sitting at number 5 in the conference. That's where they have the largest edge. And then in terms of on the ground, being able to run the ball, ASU at 7th, Iowa State at 9th. Points scored, Iowa State at 11th. ASU coming in toward the bottom of the pack here in the conference, sitting at number 13. Do any of these numbers offensively, defensively stand out for you, maybe just in terms of this matchup, maybe something that you're surprised by on the ASU or Iowa State side of things?
No, I got nothing. We can move on. No, with rushing yards on both sides of the ball, right? I think I'm surprised to see Iowa State on the bottom half of this conference in rushing yards. I think Hansen is realistically one of the better backs, I think, in the conference. And if you watch him play, I mean, he plays like he's one of. Now, maybe part of that is the threats outside of it. Rocco Becht, I think, has like 60 total rush yards this season on like 62 rush attempts. Now, of course, it's college, so sacks do come into play with
7
that.
touchdowns on the ground.
Yeah, but not necessarily like a running threat. Like he can, but it's not like Wigman, who was able to just take it straight up the gut over and over. We don't need to get
I slightly disagree with you on that.
Really?
I think Houston maybe didn't give out the blueprint here, but I think Rocco Becht is a very comparable quarterback to Connor Weigman in that sense of like athleticism. Like I don't think we're having the conversation of Rocco Becht and Connor Weigman in the conversation with Sam Levitt, right? A healthy Sam Levitt, or even like a Devin Dampier or an Avery Johnson. But I do think they're maybe in that second, third tier, in the same tier of being able to, if their team's calling a quarterback draw, like, yeah, they're going to do it, right? Like we saw Weigman go do that same play 15 to 20 times and have success. I wouldn't be shocked if Matt Campbell said, you know what? We're going to see if they can stop it this week. Just give it to Rocco, let him run the football.
I mean, he doesn't have concrete for legs, but like, look, man, if you look realistically, Rocco Becht this season, 62 carries for 60 yards. Not great. You look at,
not great. But sacks also go into it, and he's somebody that's been sacked 15 times.
Sure.
In terms of sack yardage lost, they've lost 101 yards this season in terms of sack yards. So you can do the math
so
there.
we'll call it 60 for 160 then. If we want to give him that. Okay. Wigman is 87 for 354 and 8 touchdowns.
So 20 more carries, 1 more touchdown.
Yeah, and significantly more yards, over double the amount of yards. So for me, I'm not saying that Rocco Becht is like is not able to run, but I do not believe that he poses the same threat, and I don't think that Iowa State wants to use him the same way that torched Arizona State. Rocco Becht is a passing quarterback, and that's fine. I mean, it shows in the passing numbers, right? Like he clearly is able to do that. I think it's going to be really interesting, and it's kind of funny how we sit here and we're talking about Arizona State's defensive line and rush defense being so damn good, and the secondary being the unit that is, I don't want to say necessarily struggling, but not as good as what we expected them to be, clearly, and especially on paper. Because going into the season, it was the exact opposite. It was like, if you have one question about this defense, is the pass rush, right? And if you have one like solid point of this defense, it's that secondary. Now, of course, missing Xavier Alford is a really big part of that. But I'm going to be interested to see how they can contain a guy like Rocco Becht, who is not the same type of threat to run. So I do think that you can call your defensive coverage a little bit differently than when Houston was just using the best Connor named quarterback of all time just to run straight up the middle. But with Hansen is, let's see, what's a better back that they face this year than Hansen? Just off the top
in terms of ASU?
In terms of ASU's run defense,
Can I put Devin Dampier in that conversation?
I think you
put him in the running back conversation.
I think you could. I think it's a little bit different, but I mean, obviously, it all plays in the same. Like, is that
I would
it?
say the only better back that I can think of off the top of my head is probably the dude from Mississippi State.
Okay,
Fluff, I think is his name.
Yeah, Fluff. Oh, yeah, dude, Fluff.
Yeah, Fluff Bothwell.
Yes,
hell of a name.
Bothwell. Okay, so and when you realistically look at that, like, that was a long time ago. And I thought that the defensive line actually did a pretty good job that game,
Yeah.
especially in the second half, right? So realistically speaking, you're playing, if not the best, one of the best threats in that running back room that you've had, and you've probably are facing one of your least threatening dual threat quarterbacks that Arizona State's defense has. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how does Brian Ward call his defensive coverage? Does he remain a little soft with that, knowing that Rocco can definitely pick apart, or are they going to try to put a lot of pressure on him, make him move, or get Hansen down early? Because if you don't, he can run off for 70.
Yeah, I think that's 100% something that you have to look at. And I think on the flip end, like when we're, or I guess not the flip end, but when we're talking about like this Arizona State defense and how do you approach this game, we know that Iowa State is not the same team that they were a year ago, right? This is an Iowa State squad that hasn't really been able to replace those 2,000-yard receivers. Granted, they've got themselves a pretty damn good tight end. And you know, they've had players step up here and there, but at the end of the day, I think when we're talking about like this ASU defense going up against the Iowa State offense, I would give the edge overall to the Arizona State defense, just based off of what we've seen like in totality this season. I would also say that when we're talking about this ASU defense and maybe how it's changed two of the last three games that have all obviously been losses versus, you know, the start of the year when they were kind of rattling off wins despite not playing as well in theory. I would look at this ASU pass rush, right? It's something that you brought up as maybe the biggest question mark for this ASU team, maybe this ASU defense overall going into the 2025 season. At one point, Arizona State's pass rush was the leading, you know, group in this conference at 19 sacks early on in the season. And as we stand here now with just, you know, 4 regular season games left, Arizona State is still third in the conference in sacks, but they're only at 22, right? Only 3 more sacks than they had several weeks ago. So offensive lines and you know, opposing offensive coordinators have been adjusting well to what Arizona State has been doing in terms of trying to rush the passer. So when we talk about what Brian Ward can do this week, I want to see the Sun Devils get back to that. I want to see ASU get back to simulated pressure, get back to creating that chaos up front and really trying to rattle what Rocco Becht is doing, because he doesn't have those 2,000-yard receivers to lean on, right? Carson Hansen's a solid running back on the ground. He's not necessarily the biggest threat in the world when it comes to what he's going to do outside of that, right, in terms of the receiving game. So Clayton Smith, CJ Fight, Jacob Kangaika, we'll see if Prince Dorba plays, right? He was available against Houston. We didn't see him. So if he's able to come back, Elijah O'Neal, maybe sending a little bit more pressure, I think that could really, really impact what Arizona State does defensively and just trying to win those early downs and put Iowa State in those third and long situations. I do still want to get to the ASU offensive side of things, because I do think this is where the matchup is going to be won or lost. On Saturday, I'm curious to see if you think that's the same or if you think it's the ASU defense. Want to get to what the Deli Man has to think, what Chad has to think. We're going to hear from Matt Campbell. We still got a ton to get into on today's episode of the PHNX Sun Devils Show. So hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and we will see you guys on the other side of this quick break.
Look, we like to joke around a lot, but it's no joking matter if you are injured in an accident or you really suffer any serious injury. And that's why Mark and Alexis Breyer at the Husband and Wife Law Team are the #1 place that you should call if you do find yourself in that situation. Now, they can tell you what they can bring you, but they would like to just promise it. Instead, they will promise that you can cancel your fee agreement at any time for any reason. They promise you that you will receive at least as much in your pocket as they receive for their fee, even if they have to reduce their attorney fee to do so. You will always be able to speak to one of their lawyers as often as you want about anything that you want to discuss. The practice is 100% dedicated to injury and wrongful death. Plus, they are certified specialists, and in Arizona, the state bar has has certified less than 1% of all lawyers as specialists in injury and wrongful death litigation. Plus, the husband and wife law team are actually the ones practicing the law. They will try trials as well. If you have a serious injury, call the husband and wife law team first at 602-783-8841 or visit their website at husbandandwifelawteam.com.
I feel like every time we go to Mountain America Stadium, win or lose, I continue to see more people rocking branded Bills hats every single time we're out there. And it feels like every single time there is a new ASU branded Bills hat that stands out. I've got the all white, icy white with the white Sun Devil logo on it. It's a sexy hat. There's honestly no better way to put it. But Branded Bills has a ton of different hats, not just when it comes to your Arizona State Sun Devils. So whether you guys are looking to make your brand stand apart from the crowd, or if you're just interested in maybe updating your wardrobe with some new Branded Bills caps, Branded Bills, they've got you covered with anything that you could possibly need. Whether it's snapbacks, truckers, fitteds, beanies, or tees, they've got you covered with performance and style. Make sure you head to brandedbills.com and use that code PHNX for 15% off your first order. Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button.
Yes.
And drop a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. I think it's going to be the ASU offense that has to win this game. I think that's where the game is going to be won or lost. What do you think, Rubus? Do you think it's going to be on Jeff Sims' right arm and his legs to get it done, or what?
Let me get into some cliches here. Arizona State's offense can absolutely lose Arizona State this game. Arizona State's defense will be what would win Arizona State this game. You need to go out there defensively, and you need to have the game of your life. Look, you are not going to, at least from what we have seen in his time at ASU, go out there and bank on the fact that Jeff Sims will lead an offense to a win. He has not been able to do it. And I'm not going to sit here and just do bash on Jeff Sims hours.
What's your confidence level
in the offense?
In Jeff Sims to lead this team to a win out of 10.
Low. Out of 10?
What is it? Out of 10.
To lead them or to not cost them the game?
I think those are two to lead them to a win. 2. 2 out of 10.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, do I think he could be good enough to not cost them this game? Absolutely. I think even in some of if you look at him statistically, I think that you can also watch him and say, okay, there was a touchdown to Malik McClain when he was playing that Malik dropped. There were a couple passes that Malik dropped. Like, he had some good throws. But as far as like Jeff Sims going out there and being the reason why Arizona State wins this game, what has he done at Arizona State for me to think that he can do that? I'd love to be wrong. I'm rooting for him. This
is where I think we differ. And maybe it's just maybe I'm getting lost in it. I don't think Jeff Sims needs to be the reason that Arizona State wins this game. Like, I have confidence that he can lead this offense to the point where it is, it's moving and putting the Sun Devils in a position to score, and then you got to make a couple plays here or there. I've got more confidence in Jeff to do that than you do. I would say, probably a 5. It's still not great.
That's kind of different than what you asked me, though.
Huh?
Like, that's kind of different. Like, if you ask me about managing the game, then I can go to 5. But you
leading
said
them. I think it's different. Again, like leading them to victory, I would say a 5 out of 2. It's
interesting.
I'm with you in the sense that we haven't seen him do it. Right. The 2 games that he has started for Arizona State, which was Cincinnati last year and Utah this year, they've been losses. Right. Both kind of embarrassing losses for the team and the program as a whole, regardless of like the opponent. Right. But I think we can also, and I don't want to sit up here and make excuses, but I'm just trying to think about how you and I specifically, and correct me if I'm wrong, how we've talked about the 2 games specifically that Jeff has played in, right? So I think last year when we were talking about the Cincinnati game, it was more so, okay, well, we feel like they didn't really give Jeff the keys, right? It almost like the offensive game plan kind of hindered what Jeff Sims' strengths are as a player, not just a quarterback. And then you couldn't capitalize on special teams, right? Left a bunch of points on the board. Whether that would have made a difference or not is neither here nor there. But I feel like we both, me maybe more than you did, feel like that was more a coaching staff error than it was a Jeff Sims issue, right or wrong?
I think it's definitely part of it. I do remember watching that game and walking away and feeling like, okay, they could have let him do more. And when you talk to people about that, sometimes non-ASU fans will kind of like laugh at you about that. Because obviously he doesn't have the best. I know, but he doesn't have the best reputation out there. But that was what I walked away thinking. That I didn't think that Jeff Sims was a reason that they lost to Cincinnati, right? But I also don't think that it was like, wow, Jeff Sims was a world beater and everybody else lost you that game. Like Cam had his only fumble of the season that game. They couldn't hit a field goal to save their life. That was the big post game about Kenny and all that. So my 2 is not necessarily, and I know you'll bring up the Utah game. The Utah game was weird. It was rainy. The defense was absolutely dog poop.
Everybody was ass in that game. So it wasn't just a Jeff thing, right?
No, absolutely not. And that's why, like, my 2 out of 10 is not a matter of fact of saying ASU has no chance to win this game with Jeff Sims. That's not at all what I'm saying. But realistically, Jeff Sims could play the best that we've seen him play at Arizona State. And I don't know if it's enough to like will this team to a win, which is kind of what I was basing. And that's what I was kind of basing it on. Can he manage? Can he manage the game? I think it's possible. I think he still has to play better than what we've shown. He's had some throws that just straight up are not good. And he's had some great throws that are dropped by some of these receivers. That's why it would help a lot if Jordan Tyson plays, if Malik can play like he did last week, if Shaman can continue to just be a target for him. And that reception that Shaman had was one of the best plays of the game from Jeff Sims, right? Yeah. If you ask me, can Jeff Sims do enough for the rest of this team to also step up and then get ASU a win? I'll sit at a 5. Right? But what have we seen from this team so much this year to the point that we were lamenting it? Is it took Sam Levitt hero ball to win games by 3, right? There is no Sims hero ball. That's just not going to happen. And God, I hope I'm cold takes exposed. I hope that I'm wrong. But I cannot walk into Saturday.
Sims legacy game, 300 through the air, 100 on the ground, 4 touchdowns.
I'll cry. Like, that would be amazing, right? But realistically, he hasn't shown that that's something that he can do, or that how the offense is called when he's out there will, allow him to do. So it's on the coaches, it's on the players, it's on everybody. But we've seen so much hero ball needed for this team to get to the 5 wins that they have. And that's why the 2 is the number I gave before. But management is a completely different conversation. Can he not make enough mistakes? And can he be good enough to win this game? I do believe so. I'm not like roaringly confident in it, but I do believe that that's in there.
What do you think, Deli, man? Where's your confidence level at?
I mean, it's low. It sadly is low. It's just there's not a lot that you've been able to see in terms of success when they've trotted this guy out here. And again, like you're saying, it doesn't have to all fall on him. Like, the coaching staff is failing him too if he can't draw success from this offense. So I don't know, man. It's a hard position to be put in, and especially now where it's looking like you're trending toward Tyson not playing too. Like, I don't know what my confidence level in this offense is at all.
So that's sad. Wes Beasy in the chat, I think, bringing up something that's, I don't think that we can gloss over here. Saying, what I can say is the guys on this team have Jeff's back and want to see him succeed. Sham saw him after last game and stopped talking to us so we can go hug him and give him some encouragement. The guys love Jeff Sims, and Jeff Sims has been a stellar teammate. I remember last year when it was Levitt Sims quarterback competition, and I remember watching
2 Sunday guys.
I remember Jeff just being awesome to Sam and talking with him, encouraging him, rooting for him, like all of that. I think the fact that ASU wanted to retain him is a testament to Jeff Sims himself. This is a team that had championship level expectations this offseason, and they decided to retain him. And I think they could have gone out there and gotten a backup quarterback, but everybody on this team loves him and believes in him, right? The coaching staff, the players, like Sam, they all do. We haven't been able to see it, and it's not always been Jeff Sims' fault, but I don't see anybody going out there on Saturday on that team and being like, we got Jeff. Like, they're all going to be ready to go and 100%. Ready to play, and they're going to believe that they're winning that game.
Yeah, I would agree 1,000%. I see some people talking about Cam Dyer, potentially bringing, Cam Dyer as a starter here. I know he's the backup medically cleared, so he will be the emergency QB2. Dilly was asked today post practice about, like, is there any thought to, because of the redshirt rule now, where you can get 4 games of playing time and still have a redshirt? If that was going to impact his thought process when it comes to some of these games, and he shut it down pretty quickly, saying, you know what, no, like we're gonna win as many football games as possible. That's the goal. That's not something that's gonna change. He's like, I wouldn't have been asked that question last year, right? So it's kind of funny how things change, but like that should give you a good idea as to what this team's mentality is going into each and every one of these games. It also kind of maybe adds a little bit of clarity to the Levitt Tyson injury situations post bye week, because I know it's something that you and I had discussed of, at what point do you shut Sam down? At what point does JT maybe shut himself down? It does sound like if these guys are healthy and medically clear to play, that they will play. Not just against Iowa State. We know Sam Levitt's already been ruled out. It's still kind of TBD on JT. Kenny didn't want to comment on the injuries today, more so saying that obviously there's a lot of them, so it would be just easier if everybody could see it when the player availability report comes out Wednesday evening. So that will be out. We'll get a sense of that, but like, don't expect to see Cam Dyer in this football game if it's a close game, right? In my eyes, Cam Dyer comes in this football game for 3 reasons. Either Jeff goes down, the team is winning by a gazillion points somehow, and they're just going to bench Jeff at that point, right? Bench your starters. Or they're losing so poorly that Cam Dyer comes in the game. This is not going to be like we're just competitively going to switch to Cam Dyer. I just don't see it based off of the trust and the faith that they have in Jeff as a staff. Regardless of what the fan base thinks, this coaching staff has a lot of faith in Jeff. And he's had the full week with the ones, full week of this staff being able to game plan as Jeff Sims is going to be QB1 and the starter this week. I'm interested to see if that maybe makes a difference, right? I know Jeff got reps during the last bye week, and then Sam came back, and it was like kind of 50-50. Sam's getting reps with the ones, and then all of a sudden Sam goes from probable to doubtful to out or whatever, and then Jeff's thrown in there. So what does this offense look like? What does the game plan look like, knowing that it's Jeff Sims, and it's been Jeff Sims all week, right? They ruled him out Tuesday, and here you go. You have the keys. Run the offense. And you're going to have a lot of opportunities this game offensively because Iowa State does not get to the quarterback the way that some of these other defensive fronts have against Arizona State, right? The Sun Devils have played already some of the best pass rushing teams in this conference when it comes to like just sacking the quarterback. Texas Tech, Utah, Houston, TCU. Arizona State has played, they are number 3, but they've played the other top 4 of the top 5 in this conference in terms of getting to the quarterback. Iowa State only has 10 sacks on the year. The only teams that have fewer sacks defensively than the Cyclones are Colorado and Baylor, sitting at 9 and 8 on the season. So the Sun Devils, in terms of the offensive line, this should be, in theory, their easiest matchup that they've had in weeks in terms of being able to protect their quarterback. Now, I say that knowing that in terms of offensive lines giving up sacks this season in the conference, no team has given up more sacks than Arizona State, sitting at 25. The other 2 sitting at 2 and 3 respectively are West Virginia and Colorado, 2 of the worst teams in this conference. So it's going to be like a very, very head-scratching matchup of like, okay, you have an offensive line who in 2025 hasn't been able to keep their quarterback upright, going up against the defense who all of 2025 just hasn't been able to get to the quarterback. It feels like that could be a big part of this game, whichever, line holds up best, ASU's O-line or Iowa State's D-line could be a game changer in Saturday's matchup.
Well, I think it's also important to note that Jeff Sims' best ability that he has out there for ASU is going to be his legs, right? Not that he hasn't had some good throws this year, not that he can't throw the ball. He's an extraordinary athlete. And they even put him in against Houston to pick up that. I think it was either a 3rd or a 4th down. They needed him to rush. Like if the offensive line is not able to protect him, in this current state is so much better to avoid any sort of sack or pressure than Sam Levitt is, right? And that Cam Dyer is, for all that we know. We know Cam Dyer is medically cleared. The dude's got a bionicle leg. Like he's got a huge brace on.
God,
right?
Bionicles. Haven't heard that in ages.
Underrated GameCube game.
Yeah.
The Bionicles GameCube game.
I never played the GameCube game. I played with like the toys as a kid.
Dude, underrated is the GameCube in general.
Yeah.
GameCube rips.
No, I think it's properly rated.
Yeah, it's loved. It's like,
it's loved,
again,
but I don't think it's talked about in like the best consoles of all time, and I think it should be.
I think it is.
Yeah,
I feel like it's pretty easily top 3.
I agree, but how often do people talk about like, oh, the GameCube's the greatest console of all time?
Very quickly. I don't want you to give me any sort of explanation. I want 1, 2, 3 best consoles.
PlayStation 4. I might do GameCube too. GameCube, bro. I love my Game Boy. My Game Boy Advance. That thing rocks. That's my personal 3.
Okay, Shane. Quickly.
I mean, GameCube is 1 for me because that was my childhood.
Okay.
Then I would say, dude, the Nintendo Switch is a pretty elite.
The Switch is
It
awesome.
is pretty elite.
It's a pretty elite console, and then I'd probably
Don't mind the whale that's going nuts.
Yeah, and then I'd probably go
dude.
N64.
N64. Yeah, a lot of people saying the OG NES. PS3's in there, N64. I gotta go. I'm an Xbox guy. I think the what was it? Did you buy you jailbroke like an Xbox or something that you would buy?
No, my Wii.
Your Wii. Okay,
That's it. Yeah, that's
that.
it.
Wii is 1.
What the hell?
OG, I think Wii
what
is
the
1.
hell?
I think
You're high.
GameCube
Wii
2.
is 1.
GameCube 2.
You're off the weed, bro.
GameCube
The
2.
weed?
Game Boy 3.
Game Boy rocks. Game Boy's
yeah.
awesome. I still play my Game Boy to this day. I found
that's
it
fair.
the other day, and I'm like, this thing rocks.
I wish I still had my Game Boy, low-key.
Banshidi says, I think I have whiplash from this left turn that we took, but it's PS2 360 Switch.
It's totally fair.
Yeah. No free ads, but all the free ads in the world for our favorite gaming systems.
Oh, man. Look, hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button. Let us know what your favorite gaming console is. Drop that in the chat. We're going to hear from Iowa State head coach Matt Campbell here on the other side of our second break. I'm here to tell you about our friends over at Gila River Resorts and Casinos, especially if you are a Phoenix Suns fan, because Rubus, as you know, the Phoenix Suns season is officially underway, which means we are going to be having a bunch of PHNX events, watch parties over at Wild Horse Pass, Gila River Resorts and Casinos. But the fun doesn't just stop at Wild Horse Pass. Go check out any of their 4 locations. Of course, Wild Horse Pass, Lone Butte, Vequiva, and Santan Mount to experience that, of course, the best that the Valley has to offer. The best thing about Gila River Resorts and Casinos is they've got something for everybody. If you want to hang by the pool, you could do that. If you want to just chill, maybe go get a big steak dinner, well, you could do that. If you want to really turn up the party and you want to go win some money, well, you could do that on the gaming floor, or you can check out their sports books as well. They've got something for everybody over at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. But something you always got to remember is you do you when you're at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playatgila.com for more details.
Every single week that I can go to Mountain America Stadium is a good week. And you need a good place to keep your money. And that's why Mountain America Credit Union is the place for you and a proud sponsor of Arizona State University. You've heard it a bunch by now. They donate $250 to support university athletics for every field goal made. They provide $20,000 in scholarships to local student athletes every single year. And they sponsor a shoe donation program to award brand new shoes to community members in need. But they also want to help you with a MyStyle checking account. Get offers on travel and events, loan rate discounts, identity protection, telehealth access, mobile phone protection, restaurant deals, and so much more. You can make MyStyle your lifestyle at Mountain America Credit Union. And of course, you can rep ASU at Mountain America Credit Union, who's dedicated to guiding members and communities forward. Learn more at macu.com/ASU. Insured by NCUA. Terms, conditions, and exclusions apply. Loans are on approved credit.
Love it. Again, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, drop a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. Of course, Erik, these two teams they're just absolutely beat up. This is the battle of the wounded warriors. Whoever can go will go on Saturday in Ames, Iowa, when the Sun Devils take on Iowa State. Matt Campbell, the other day at his weekly availability, was asked about Jeff Sims getting the nod at quarterback with Sam Leavitt being out. He was asked if he approaches preparation any differently, knowing that Sims is going to be ASU's QB1.
I think the thing that's unique, and obviously Jeff's played a lot of football, and I think you've seen it already. You saw it in the fourth quarter a little bit Saturday from them. Man, I really think he came in and was a monumental spark of success for them. And when you see a guy like Jeff that's played a lot of really good football, and it's a unique challenge because I think him and Sam probably have some similarities. They both are elite runners with the football. They can create in the pocket. They've got the ability to run the offense. And, I'll give Kenny a lot of credit. I mean, I think he's done a great job of having a great 1-2 punch at quarterback. Both those guys can run the system and run the offense. And then, obviously, they've got great playmakers around them. So I think it really helps. But you certainly are always looking at, every piece of the puzzle to try to give yourself the best opportunity to be successful no matter who plays quarterback.
I think it is interesting to think about, how other teams maybe view Jeff Sims, regardless of playing against him or not. Like, in theory, Jeff Sims is what you'd want in a backup quarterback in this system, right? He is very comparable in terms of skill set, I think, to Sam Leavitt. I don't think to the level of Sam Leavitt, but like in terms of what they do, right? They're both dual threat quarterbacks. We know they both have kind of a cannon of an arm. It's about reeling that in a little bit, being maybe accurate with it, which I think they both struggle with at separate times. And then we know what Sam brings this offense in terms of juice on the ground. Jeff does the same exact thing. So in terms of game planning, I feel like not much really changes for Iowa State defensively, knowing that Jeff is, the same skill set guy that Sam has in terms of running, the football.
I'll push back on that a little bit. I
Okay.
think you have to be so much more cognizant of the passing game and the deep ball game when Sam Leavitt's out there. Even if, let's just say, Sims has the physical ability to do so, from what he has proven at Arizona State, it's not been something that could at least consistently happen, or in some cases happen at all. And that for a defense makes it a lot easier to scheme than, hey, you send a bunch of guys at Sam Leavitt. It's not just going to be the fact that he rolls out and breaks your ankles. Like, he's going to roll out, break your ankles. He might run for 10. He might check down for 7. He might launch a 40-yard off-balance bomb to Jaron Hamilton right in the breadbasket. Jeff Sims not doing that, right? So you can focus a lot more on the running side of the game, whether it's Raleek or whether it's Jeff, as a defensive coordinator, in my mind, when you go up against him. But it doesn't mean that there aren't certain opposing player, but I'm not surprised that they're at least going to go in somewhat, wary of, okay, what can Sims do? But I do think, realistically speaking, like, there is so much more limits on this offense with Sims under center than Leavitt.
I think there's limits for sure. Sharon with a great comment that makes me feel good. He's not Drew Pine.
Amen.
He's not Drew Pine. He's not Jacob Conover.
Jacob Conover. I knew immediately you were going to bring that up.
Like, it could always be worse at quarterback, guys. Just know, in 2023, as an ASU fan, you went through it. You saw quite literally the bottom of the barrel as to what it could be at the quarterback position for ASU. I'm taking Jeff Sims over Drew Pine. I'm taking Jeff Sims over Jacob Conover. Taking Jeff Sims over Jaden Rashada, who was recently benched at Sacramento State. So, like, it could always be worse. And I'm very interested to see what this offensive coaching staff has in store for Jeff offensively. And I'm honestly intrigued to see what the skill players around Jeff have in store, because in each of those games, Cincinnati and Utah, that Jeff has started, the skill players haven't lived up to their expectation either, right? Tyson was very clearly the only skill player that came in really ready to play against Utah, right? 16 targets, 7 or 8 catches. Now, I get it. Like, yardage-wise, it wasn't great. I think part of that you have to factor in the offensive line, the weather, all sorts of stuff, right? So you're going to need all these other skill guys to come through. Ralik, if Kanye is available to play, if Kyson's available to play, if Man gets in there at wide receiver, Jalen, Jaron, Malik, Shaman, AJ, Kamari, like everybody is going to need to do their part here against a Iowa State team that is extremely banged up, like more so than I maybe have ever seen a secondary banged up. We'll get into that side of things, the injuries on Iowa State's front here in just a second. But on that same note of the skill players, this is what Iowa State's Matt Campbell had to say about Arizona State as a whole. Very, very complimentary of this Sun Devil squad.
Uber talented across the board. You know, you're talking a team that's got obviously they've got championship pedigree. They you know, had a great year a year ago. You see that. I mean, you see how they've played. They're uber athletic, probably the most athletic team that we've played across the board all season. They're physical at the point of attack, and they've got great skill players. They've got difference makers all over the place, and they've done a great job of that. They play really hard and be a really great challenge for a football team.
I think it's part of the frustrating part for the season is that we've known that about ASU, and we've known that they're deep with guys who could be potential difference makers, and it just the puzzle has not been fully complete really on any day except for probably Texas Tech. And so if ASU can get as much of that puzzle together with the skill guys, with their depth, with their uber talent, as Matt Campbell put it, and play hard, which is something that didn't happen the last time Jeff Sims started at quarterback, yeah, ASU can win this game for sure. ASU will always be a dangerous team. I could be out there at quarterback, and ASU would be a dangerous team because of everybody else around them. I'm better than Jacob Conover. No, but I also want to acknowledge the fact that you'll never hear an opposing coach be like, they suck.
Yeah.
Right. But I do think there's a lot of truth in what he said.
I mean, he called it the most skilled team, pretty much, most athletic team that they've seen all year. They just played BYU. Like, I think that says a lot about the talent on this team, and it just kind of needs to get to that. It just needs to, like you said, in terms of like using the puzzle metaphor here, like you just need to put the damn pieces together, right? And I get it. Some of them are bent. Some of them are torn. There's probably, you know, it's probably sticky across some of them from like spilled juice or something. You just got to put the damn puzzle together. I don't care what the pieces look like at this point. I don't care if they're the right pieces. Just put the damn puzzle together. That's all that matters at this point. Banshizdi had a good comment a little bit earlier in the chat saying, isn't the offense just is what it is? We've been hoping for more from this offense all year. I hear that comment 100%. I get it. Yeah. I think that's understandable. It's frustrating, right? To see some of the talent that we've seen, that you guys have very clearly seen offensively, and just be like, why isn't it coming together? I feel like we're all kind of at the same like part where we see there's talent, right? We saw Jaron go for over 100 receiving yards against the number 7 team in the country. We know what Sam is. We've seen Ralik go off. We saw Kanye Udo rush for over 100 in SEC country on the road, right? We just saw Malik McClain go for over $150. Like, we know what Shaman's capable of. So why can't it kind of all come together this week, right? Like, I think knowing that all the talent is there, I think that should always give you a little bit of hope to be like, okay, like maybe this is the week that all of that talent decides to come together. And I think it's less of a deciding to and more of like, okay, we're going to put these guys in the best position to succeed.
I think it totally could come together. Absolutely. I mean, there's certainly a chance. And if everything comes together, even outside of Jeff Sims, Arizona State can win this game. You know, the defense specifically as well, they cannot show up like they did against Utah. They simply cannot. Or Houston. But specifically Utah, because that's the last time that Jeff Sims played. Look, this team has already struggled playing from behind for basically every single game so far this year. Actually, now that I think about it, what games have gotten out to an early lead besides Tech? NAU and Texas State?
Yes.
3 games. 2 non-con. 2 of your weaker opponents, and of course the best team you played all year. Of course. But You can't allow Rocco to get in a rhythm. We've seen this guy throw 300 yards on 22 passes, completing 19 of them, right? You can't allow him to get into a rhythm. You can't allow Iowa State to feel confident at home in Ames. Your defense has to get out early, shut them down, and your offense has to at least get you a field goal. Play from ahead, and that is going to be much more conducive to the skill set that Jeff Sims can bring, and I think it'll be a much-needed boost of confidence for a team that I think is desperately searching for one.
I think that's all very fair, right? So the question is, how do you beat them? How do you beat Iowa State defensively? How do you beat Iowa State offensively? Starting on the defensive side of the ball for Iowa State, Erik, this is a team that has just been absolutely gutted when it comes to injuries, specifically on the defensive side of the ball in the secondary. We know they've lost their 2 starting corners for the year with injuries. They just lost another one for the year, I believe, a week or 2 ago. So they are thin when it comes to that DB room. Like, how much do you think you put stock into, okay, they're thin at DB, like so much so that like FCS transfers who were getting a snap or 2 against Arizona are now starting for that defense because they just don't have any other players to play. So how much of that do you factor in? Like, okay, they're beat up, they're banged up, they've got guys out there that maybe don't have a lot of experience or they're not ultra talented, versus, okay, offensively, we haven't necessarily seen our wide receivers produce on a consistent basis, game in, game out. Plus you have a backup quarterback. Plus your offensive line hasn't kept your quarterback upright most of the year.
I know it's not exactly the same, but you remember who else had a weak secondary, or at least the weakness on their defense was their secondary?
Off the top of my head, was it Utah?
Yeah, it was Utah. It was the last time Jeff Sims played and started in a game. Do you want to know what didn't happen that game?
Tell me.
Their secondary was not exploited. Hopefully, again, given, if the team can step up, which we've been asking for offensively, other guys to step up every single week. We finally got that last week without Jordan Tyson. So if that can happen again, or if Jordan Tyson's back and that can happen, that changes how I feel about this game quite a bit. Hopefully the offensive line has found the 15,000th combination to be the right one. And the brutal defensive line pressure allows Jeff Sims to be able to at least attack that secondary. But realistically speaking, Jeff Sims threw the ball, 40 times against Utah?
God,
dude,
yeah.
he threw the ball too many times. Jeff Sims should not be throwing the ball over 25 times this game. And it needs to be well-timed, and they need to take advantage, and wide receivers, a.k.a. my guy, but everybody needs to catch the damn ball when Jeff does throw it well. If all of that comes together and happens and the defense plays well, Arizona State can win this game. But realistically, how many times besides Texas Tech have we left a game and been like, damn, everything that could have went right for ASU ended up going right for ASU? Like, how many times has that happened this year? Is it going to happen this week? I'm not going to put my money on it, but I'm not going to say it's impossible.
Yeah, I think that's fair. You look, the green M&M in the chat says you've got the stoppable force versus the movable object here. In which one is going to kind of give. I'm very interested to see the balance on offense. Do you opt to run the football against a defense in Iowa State that is traditionally a 3-3-5, right? So you have 3 down linemen, 3 backers, and everything else just kind of floats around. Like, is that maybe an approach that you use getting back to the ground game, and that maybe opens up the RPOs and the read options for Jeff? Or is it what we saw against Utah, where it's like, hey, you know what? Like, we don't care. We're going to just throw the football. And if that is the approach, like, do you scheme things open? Like, do you actually have, some sort of semblance of route combinations that leave some of these skill players open, or they've got the ability, to at least make a play when they need to. So I think that's something to watch. If it were me, I mean, I feel like I've said it every week: run the football, run the football,
Yes,
run the football. That needs to come
please.
first, especially in a game where you have a backup quarterback, especially when we're talking about the offensive line, not really giving whoever's at quarterback much time to throw and much comfort right? Time and comfort, I think, are very different when it comes to the quarterback position and what the offensive line allows him to do. Sam Levitt, when he's been at quarterback, has not been comfortable. He's created extra time for himself.
Mm-hmm.
So do you allow the quarterback to be comfortable, have an extra second or two in the pocket before having to escape, and then go through his progressions? Because that's something that people don't necessarily talk about when they talk about Jeff Sims or Sam Levitt here in 2025, is going through reads and going through progressions is very different inside a pocket versus having to scramble and keep your eyes downfield, right? Now, I get it. They're D1 quarterbacks. We talk about Sam Levitt specifically as a top 10 quarterback in college football, that those are things that you eventually have to adjust to and get really, really good at. But still, those are difficult things to do for most Division I quarterbacks, is to be able to go through progressions by itself, let alone doing it while you're scrambling to the right, to the left, making people miss. So let's see if Jeff Sims has a little bit of extra time. How do you give him that time? You run the football, and when you do opt to throw, you do it out of the play action pass, maybe do it in 12 personnel, have some of these tight ends off the line just to chip, keep those RBs in for pass protection, and see what you can get chunk by chunk offensively this week. And then on the defensive side of the ball for Arizona State, I think we already kind of hit on it, right? This is a team in the Sun Devils that defensively early on in the year was really, really good at two things. They were great at stopping the run, and they were great at getting to the quarterback. As of late, they've been decent at stopping the run, and they haven't been great at bringing down the quarterback. Maybe getting there, but not bringing him down, similar to what the issue felt like it was in 2024 when we talked to Clayton Smith, right? It's like we can get there, but we're just having a tough time bringing him down, which feels like it always shows up on like third downs and fourth downs that are just kind of inexcusable, where you have to get off the field. You can't afford these drives to continue for some of these teams. That felt like a big issue against Houston, right? With that +1 QB draw, is they were picking up 4 or 5 yards. So every time it was third down, it was third and short, right? And third and short is a lot more manageable. You have a lot more options if you're an OC to actually scheme something up, or to call one of your more, just one of the plays that you like the most. So defensively, I think it starts there in terms of getting pressure. And then we already talked about Carson Hansen. Like, he's a very, very talented running back. Is he, like any of the guys that the Sun Devils saw last year? Maybe. I would say if I had to give him a comp, probably similar to like a Corey Kiner from last season, which Arizona State lost to, right? Cincinnati's Corey Kiner, I believe, had a pretty solid game. I think went over the century mark. He's a bruiser. He's a bruiser type of running back. I know that's not the first thing you think of when you see Carson Hansen, but he is not afraid to run inside the tackles, lower his shoulder, and make you bring him down. That's just who he is as a player. And then I think overall, you got to find one of their leading receiver so far this season, Brett Eckelson. Like, he first play of the game offensively last week for Iowa State. They brought him in motion, had him run a double move, and that was it. You scored a touchdown, right? Point blank period. You got to know where he's at all times. And then their tight end as well, Erik, Benjamin Brahmer, who has got 317 receiving yards on the year, 3 touchdowns, tied for the Iowa State team lead. You got to be able to find those two offensively at all times, and that's realistically, I think, where your defensive game plan should start.
Wow. I feel like I should have been taking notes during all that.
There you go, man.
I hope Kenny was listening.
Yeah, I hope so, man. I hope everybody was listening at that point.
And if you are watching on TV, a reminder, the party always continues over at gophnx.com, which means it's time for overtime. I think out of all the things that you said, which a lot of them so important, the single most important thing to me is run the ball early, because there's no reason to start off throwing the ball. Like, this is not just a Jeff Sims thing. We've been saying this every week. We've been saying this with Sam Levitt. Get ahead on the early downs. Get 3 to 4 to 5 yards, right? And I know this offensive line has not been great, but you're going up against a defensive line that, again, not great. And if you're going to need to throw the ball because you're down, let that happen naturally. Don't throw the ball early and often. Find yourself down, and then you're like, oh, well, we have to keep throwing the ball, and they know that, and they know that it hasn't been successful. If you are good on the ground early, which you have all the resources to be able to do with Raleek Brown, if they decide to give Kanye Udo any run, which honestly, I'll be shocked if he gets more touches or anything going forward on this season, minus potential, stepping in for any injuries. Like, we'll see what man gets, but like this is a game where you need to control the clock. You're on the road and you can't do anything crazy. Run the damn football and run it early. Don't get behind on downs with Sam Levitt. Don't get behind on downs even more with Jeff Sims. Don't fall behind as a team. You haven't been great all the time at being behind. You can just get ahead by running the ball and kicking some damn field goals. It's simple, basic football. You need to play and win with basic, simple football this weekend.
Yeah, and we'll see who's available tonight. Of course, when that player availability report, the first one of the week, drops later on today. So make sure you're following PHNX Sun Devils on social because we'll have all the updates for you when that does indeed get announced. That's going to do it for today's episode of the PHNX Sun Devils show. We will, of course, be back on Friday. That show will be live at noon, so an hour earlier than our normal week 1 p.m. shows. And then Saturday morning, Rubus, get ready for breakfast, beers, and ball, because that's what we're doing. We got a pregame show leading you up to kickoff right here live on the PHNX Sports YouTube channel, so make sure you stay tuned for that. We will have a watch-along for the entire Arizona State-Iowa State game. That should be a lot of fun. Get your Bloody Mary mix ready to rock, Bloody Maria mix, whatever. We're going to have a baller time. And then, of course, we'll have a post-game show for everybody as well. Yes, Sharon, we will be doing a watch-along. I'm excited. I'm amped. Another opportunity to go win a football game. Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button. Drop a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. And if you missed it earlier, for all the news and notes as it relates to Arizona State, make sure you follow the PHNX Sports YouTube channel. And then on social, give the show a follow at PHNX_Sun Devils. You can follow me at Anthony_Totri. You could follow my passenger princess, Erik Ruby, at Erik Ruby. That's Erik with a K. You can follow the Deli Man at Shane Deef.
Sharon, what the hell? Have some confidence.
As always. Guys, we will see you on Friday. In the meantime, go Devils. Peace.
You what?
We all silly like the mayor.